Welcome to Speak English with me.
Improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation with our engaging lessons.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Speak English with me. Before we jump into today's conversation, don't forget to follow the podcast if you're enjoying these episodes. Every week, we help you speak more natural English through real conversations. And if today's episode helps you, share it with another English learner. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted to say something simple like, I have a new, and then stopped because you couldn't decide whether to say job or work?
I think almost every English learner has experienced that moment. You know the vocabulary, but suddenly two words seem to mean the same thing and your brain freezes. Then you think, which one sounds natural?
And sometimes you just guess.
Which isn't always a bad idea. Guessing is part of learning. But with these two words, one small choice can make your sentence sound much more natural.
That's what we're talking about today. By the end of this conversation, you'll feel much more confident using job and work in everyday English. We won't turn this into a grammar class. Instead, we'll use real conversations, stories, and examples that people actually use.
I like that approach because that's how we really learn a language. We remember stories much better than long grammar rules.
Have you ever corrected someone who mixed up these words?
I have, but very gently. A friend once told me, I'm so happy, I finally found a new work. I knew what she meant immediately because she'd been searching for a position for months.
That's such a common mistake.
It really is. I smiled and said, congratulations. And by the way, in English, we usually say, I found a new job. She laughed and said, I've been saying it wrong all week.
I love moments like that because nobody feels embarrassed. It's just another step towards speaking better English.
And those are the mistakes people usually remember. Someone corrects you once and suddenly the right expression stays in your mind.
Here's something interesting. I've met people who speak English every day at work, answer phone calls, attend meetings, and write emails. They're very comfortable in English, but every now and then they'll still say something like, I changed my work last year.
Instead of saying, I changed my job.
Right. The message is understandable, but native speakers naturally choose a different word.
That's because job and work are close in meaning, but they aren't interchangeable all the time.
And don't worry if this has confused you before. It confuses learners from all over the world.
I think one reason is that many languages use only one word for both ideas. Then people learn English and discover there are two.
English likes making things a little more interesting.
Sometimes a little too interesting.
Let me ask you something. If I ask, what do you do, what would you answer?
I'd probably say, I'm a teacher, or I work as a teacher.
You wouldn't say, my work is teacher.
No, because that doesn't sound natural in English.
Here's a useful tip for everyone listening. When someone asks about your profession, you can say, I'm a nurse, I'm an engineer, I work as a designer, or I have a part-time job. Those are all very natural expressions.
And notice something else. We didn't stop to think about grammar. Those phrases simply sound right because they're the ones people use every day.
That's one of the biggest goals in language learning. You don't want to translate every sentence in your head forever.
You want the words to come naturally.
I remember talking with one of my students after class. We started chatting about his weekend. He said, tomorrow I don't have work, so I'm going hiking.
That's a perfect sentence.
A few minutes later, he said, my work is in a hotel.
Ah, there it is.
I smiled and asked, do you mean your job is in a hotel? He looked surprised and said, wait, aren't they the same?
I can almost imagine his face.
We spent about 10 minutes talking about different examples. Then he started saying things like, I have a new job, I love my work, and I work in a hotel. By the end of our conversation, everything sounded much more natural.
That's one of my favorite moments as a teacher. You can almost see someone connecting the pieces together.
I also think examples are much easier to remember than definitions.
Definitely.
Listen to these 3 sentences. I have a new job. I'm looking for a job. I love my work. They all sound natural, but each sentence gives a slightly different picture.
Here's another one you'll hear all the time. Imagine your friend comes home after a long day. You don't usually ask, "How was your job today?"
Most people simply ask, "How is work?"
It's shorter, smoother, and much more common in everyday conversation.
And the answers can be very different. Work was busy. Work was stressful. Work was great. Work was quiet.
Or my favorite one, "Work was crazy today."
The moment I hear that, I imagine ringing phones, last-minute emails, people rushing through the office, and someone saying, "We need to finish this before 5."
Then someone else walks in with another task.
That's when everybody suddenly needs another cup of coffee.
Or two.
What I love about language is that words become easier to remember when they're connected to real life. Maybe you remember your first interview, your first day in a new company, or the excitement of getting a phone call saying we'd like to offer you the position. Those memories make today's topic much more meaningful than just memorizing vocabulary.
That's so true. These words aren't only about English, they're about our experiences, our goals, and the stories we tell about our lives. Once you connect vocabulary to real moments, speaking starts to feel much more natural.
You know, Emma, something interesting happens once people understand the difference between job and work. They suddenly start noticing those words everywhere, in conversations, movies, podcasts, even on social media. It's like buying a new car and then seeing the same model on every road.
I know what you mean. Once your brain recognizes a pattern, you can't stop noticing it. And that's a good thing, because repetition helps those natural expressions stick.
So, let's build on what we've already talked about. Imagine I ask you a simple question. Do you have a job?
I'd answer, yes, I do.
Now if I ask, do you have work today?
I'd probably say, yes, I do, but the meaning changes a little.
It does. In the first question, I'm asking whether you have employment. In the second, I'm asking whether you have work to do today.
That's such an important difference. If I'm on vacation, I still have a job, I just don't have work today.
That's a fantastic example. A lot of learners think those two questions are identical, but they aren't.
Here's another situation. Let's imagine my friend calls me on Saturday morning. She says, "Want to go to the beach?" If I answer, "Sorry, I have work," she immediately understands that I have something related to my job to do.
Maybe you're working overtime.
Maybe I'm finishing a project.
Or maybe your boss called at the last minute.
Let's hope not.
Nobody likes that phone call.
Especially on a sunny Saturday.
Now, imagine a different conversation. Someone asks, "What does your brother do?" You probably wouldn't answer, "His work is a chef."
No, I'd naturally say, "He's a chef," or "His job is being a chef."
That's much smoother.
It also sounds more confident.
Confidence often comes from using expressions you've heard many times instead of translating directly.
I still remember one of my students telling me, "I have 3 works."
That's another common one.
We talked about it for a few minutes, and I explained that if you're talking about employment, you'd normally say, "I have 3 jobs."
Unless you're talking about something completely different, like works of art.
Right. If you visit a museum, someone might say, "This artist created many wonderful works."
That's a completely different meaning.
English enjoys recycling words.
It certainly does.
But don't worry, most of the time when you're talking about your career or daily life, you don't need to think about paintings or famous books.
Let's try a few everyday examples together. I say, "I'm looking for a new..."
Job.
I have too much.
Work.
I love her.
Job.
I finished all my...
Work.
See how quickly those answers come once you hear enough examples?
And that's why listening practice is so powerful. Your ears begin to recognize the natural choice before your brain starts translating.
Here's another sentence people hear all the time. I'm at work.
We don't usually say, "I'm at job."
Never.
If your friend texts you and asks, "Can you talk?" you might reply, "Sorry, I'm at work."
4 very simple words.
But you'll hear them thousands of times in English.
Here's something I've noticed. Learners sometimes avoid using work because they're afraid of making mistakes, so they keep saying job even when it sounds unusual.
That's true. I once heard someone say, "Today, my job was very busy."
I understand the meaning,
So do I.
but we'd naturally say, work was very busy today.
It's a tiny change, but it makes the sentence sound much more fluent.
Speaking of fluency, have you ever had one of those days where everything seemed to happen at once?
Oh, many times.
Tell me about one.
I remember arriving at work one morning with a nice little plan. I was going to answer a few emails, finish one report, and maybe enjoy my coffee while it was still hot.
That sounds peaceful.
It lasted about 5 minutes.
What happened?
Someone needed help with a presentation. Then another person asked me to join a meeting. My phone kept ringing, new emails appeared every few minutes, and by lunchtime I realized I hadn't even taken one sip of my coffee.
Was it still warm?
Not even close.
That's tragic.
I looked at the cup and thought, well, maybe tomorrow.
I think everyone listening has experienced something like that.
That's why the sentence, "work was crazy today," feels so relatable.
Because we've all had those days.
The nice thing is, these little expressions aren't difficult. They're simple, but they're the expressions native speakers choose naturally.
And that's what we're aiming for. Not complicated English, natural English.
Let me give everyone listening a quick challenge. Think about your own life and finish these sentences. My job is...
Then say, today my work is...
Or, I'm looking for a new job because...
Or, I'm working on...
That's another useful phrase. I'm working on a new project.
Notice we didn't say, I'm jobbing on a project.
I'm very glad we didn't.
That would sound quite strange.
Sometimes the fastest way to learn is by hearing what doesn't sound natural.
And the best part is that once these patterns become familiar, you stop thinking about them. Your attention moves from grammar to communication.
That's when conversations become enjoyable. You're no longer worried about every single word. You're listening, responding, laughing, telling stories, and sharing ideas.
Which is really the whole point of learning a language.
It is. Nobody learns English just to memorize vocabulary lists. We learn it so we can connect with people, build relationships, and tell our own stories with confidence. And today, we're building that confidence one natural expression at a time.
We've talked about what job and work usually mean, but here's something I think every English learner should know. Sometimes your sentence is grammatically correct, but it still doesn't sound like something people would normally say.
That's such an important point. Native speakers don't always choose words because of grammar. They choose them because they sound natural in that situation.
Let me give you an example. Imagine someone asks, "How's your new job?" You probably wouldn't answer, "My job is very busy."
You'd be more likely to say, "It's going really well," or "I'm enjoying it," or even, "The work is busy, but I like the people."
That's a much more natural response.
It also tells the listener a little more about your experience instead of simply repeating the same word.
Repeating words is another habit many learners have.
I used to do that when I was learning another language. I'd learn one new word, get excited, and then use it in every sentence.
I think we've all done that.
It felt safe because I knew the word. The problem was that every conversation started sounding the same.
That's why variety makes such a difference.
Let's imagine someone asks, "What do you do for a living?" You could say, "I'm a graphic designer," or "I work for a design company," or "I've been working there for about 5 years."
3 different answers.
And all of them sound natural.
Here's another situation. You're talking to a friend who's been stressed lately. You ask, "Everything okay?" They reply, "I've just had so much work recently."
That sounds completely normal.
But if they said, "I've had so many jobs this week," it would suggest they worked in several different positions.
Which would be a very busy week.
Definitely.
Here's a funny misunderstanding I once witnessed. 2 friends were chatting after class. One asked, "Do you like your job?" The other answered, "No, I like my family."
Wait, what?
He thought the question was asking what he liked in life.
That's actually adorable.
Everyone laughed, including him. Once he realized the misunderstanding, he smiled and said, "Oh, yes, I like my job too."
Sometimes a conversation becomes memorable because of a tiny misunderstanding.
And those moments often help us remember the correct English.
Let's look at another common mistake. Someone says, "I finished my job."
Sometimes that's correct.
Yes, if you're talking about one particular task or an assignment.
But if you mean you've completed everything you needed to do today, people often say, "I finished my work."
That's a useful distinction.
Small details like that make your English sound more fluent.
I also hear learners say, "My work starts at 9."
there's a better way to express that.
You could say, I start work at 9.
Or, I start my job at 9 if you're talking about your first day.
Those little differences are everywhere in everyday English.
The good news is you don't have to memorize hundreds of rules.
You just need enough exposure to recognize the patterns.
Speaking of patterns, here's one you'll hear very often. Good job.
That's one expression people sometimes misunderstand.
It doesn't mean good work in the sense of talking about your profession.
It's something you say to praise someone.
Maybe your child cleaned their room. Good job.
Your friend passed an exam. Good job.
Your teammate solved a difficult problem. Good job.
It's really another way of saying well done.
I love hearing those expressions because they're encouraging.
Everyone enjoys being appreciated.
They certainly do.
Let's imagine we're having coffee after work. I ask, so, how was your day?
I'd probably say busy but productive.
Then I'd ask, what kept you so busy?
I spent most of the day preparing for an important meeting.
Notice something?
We naturally started talking about the work we did without constantly repeating the word work.
That's another habit of fluent speakers.
Once the topic is clear, they don't repeat the same vocabulary again and again.
They use different expressions to keep the conversation flowing.
That's why listening is just as important as studying grammar.
You begin to notice those choices without even realizing it.
Before we move on, let's leave everyone with a quick speaking challenge. Imagine someone asks you these questions. What do you do? Do you enjoy your job? What was work like today?
Don't just answer in your head. Say your answers out loud.
Even if you're listening while driving, cooking, or taking a walk, speaking aloud helps build confidence.
And don't worry if you need a few seconds to think.
Every fluent speaker has paused to search for the right word at some point.
The goal isn't to speak perfectly,
It's to keep the conversation going.
because every real conversation teaches you something new.
And every small improvement brings you one step closer to speaking English comfortably in everyday life.
We've covered a lot today, and I hope one thing has become clear. Learning the difference between job and work isn't about memorizing a long list of grammar rules.
It's about noticing how people naturally use these words in everyday conversations.
I couldn't agree more.
When you hear the same expressions again and again, they slowly become part of your own English. One day you'll say them without stopping to think, and that's a wonderful feeling.
Before we finish, let's do one final review together.
Great idea.
I'll say the beginning of a sentence, and you complete it. I found a new.
Job.
I have too much.
Work.
I'm looking for a.
Job.
I'm at.
Work.
Work was.
Busy, stressful, great, quiet, crazy. Any of those sound completely natural.
Perfect. Now let's make things a little more interesting. Imagine someone asks, what do you do?
I could answer, I'm a teacher.
Then they ask, do you enjoy your job?
Yes, I really do. Every day is different.
Finally, they ask, how was work today?
It was busy, but I got everything finished.
That's a short conversation, but notice how both words appear naturally.
And neither one feels confusing anymore because each has its own place.
Here's another situation. Your friend says, I'm thinking about leaving my job. What might you ask next?
I'd probably ask, why? Are you unhappy there?
Then your friend replies, the people are nice, but the work has become stressful.
That's another example of how both words can appear in the same conversation while talking about different ideas.
One refers to the position.
The other refers to the tasks, responsibilities, or the experience of working.
Something I always tell learners is this: don't be afraid of making mistakes.
That's such an important reminder.
If you accidentally say, I found a new work, people will probably understand you.
They will.
Then someone might gently correct you, and you've learned something valuable.
Every mistake is a chance to improve. I honestly think some of my biggest improvements came after making mistakes that I never forgot.
Mine too.
I still remember being nervous when speaking another language. Sometimes I'd replay a conversation in my head all evening, wondering why I chose the wrong word.
I've done that more times than I'd like to admit.
Looking back, those moments weren't failures, they were part of the learning process.
That's why confidence doesn't appear first.
Practice comes first.
Then confidence follows.
And that's true whether you're learning English, starting a new hobby, or beginning a new job.
I like that connection.
Language learning and life have a lot in common. You improve little by little. Most days, you don't even notice the progress until one day someone asks you a question and you answer naturally without translating in your head.
Those are the moments worth celebrating.
They certainly are.
Before we say goodbye, here's a small challenge for everyone listening. The next time someone asks about your work or your job, pay attention to the words you choose. If you don't have anyone to talk to today, that's perfectly fine. Stand in front of a mirror or record yourself on your phone.
You could answer questions like these. What do you do? Do you enjoy your job? What time do you start work? What was work like today?
Keep your answers simple.
Then listen to yourself.
If something sounds a little strange, don't get discouraged.
Change one sentence and try again.
That's how confidence grows.
One conversation at a time.
And remember, fluency isn't about using difficult vocabulary. It's about expressing your ideas clearly and naturally so people understand you.
That's something we hope every episode helps you do.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We know you have many ways to practice English, and we're really happy you chose to learn with us.
We also hope today's conversation made you feel a little more relaxed about these two words. They may seem confusing at first, but with enough listening and speaking, they'll soon feel completely natural.
If today's episode helped you, don't forget to follow the podcast and share it with another English learner. The more you listen, the more familiar these everyday expressions become.
Thanks for being here. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and most importantly, enjoy the journey. We'll see you again very soon. Take care.